Hi, everyone. Welcome to our data and retention session with our friends ROI Solutions, a CRM that's growing quite a bit in the public media sector. In their session called New and Emerging Technology and Practice, Maximizing Sustainer Revenue, you'll first learn who ROI Solutions is, and then we'll dive into all things sustainer, starting with credit card processing and PCI compliance, and then talking about sustainer churn and the development of ROI Solutions sustainer loyalty model. We'll also hear from the head of Peta and their sustainer program on how these models have helped their particular organization. And after that, we'll do a live Q&A, and we encourage you to chat your questions to us throughout the presentation. And I also wanted to say we'll spend some good time talking about machine learning, which I'm very excited about. So with that, I will turn it over to Jason, and let's hear ROI talk about their solutions. Thanks so much. See you for Q&A.
Hi, I'm Jason Robbins, Vice President of Marketing and Business Development here at ROI Solutions. And I wanted to thank Carl Bloom Associates for giving us the opportunity to talk to you today about new and emerging technology, really helping our client organizations maximize their sustainer revenue. I'll be joined today by Cindy Hickman and John McCarthy from ROI Solutions. So first, I wanted to introduce ROI Solutions for those of you who might not know of us. We're a technology and services company. We were founded about 22 years ago with the express goal of helping nonprofit organizations better manage their data to help them improve their fundraising and ultimately help them succeed in their missions. We rely on these three pillars, our experience doing this for a long time exclusively with nonprofit organizations. We're fueled by a spirit of innovation to continue to improve our core product, Revolution Online CRM, and our supporting services. And we do all of that within a cultural framework, which truly means a dedication to our clients and their missions. Revolution Online CRM serves as our clients' constituent information hub within their own unique ecosystems. And we help our clients rethink their business processes, really streamlining those processes and automating them where possible. And our goal is really to intelligently push and pull data across their ecosystem and across their partner network. We've integrated with a wide variety of applications that help our organizations, our clients do their jobs better, faster, and smarter, including a number of partners that are really integral to the success of public media organizations. So who are our clients? So here's the full list of them in order of appearance in the ROI universe. And they represent a wide variety of missions from human rights to environmental protection, animal rights and welfare, international relief, advocacy, and of course, public media. Many of these organizations have been really focused on building their sustainer files. And several of them actually have over 100,000 active sustainers, which represent 25 million plus in annual revenue. We got our start in public media about 7 years ago with WETA, and they really drove our growth to understand and serve the sector, and also have been our biggest advocate and cheerleader. Since then, we've been joined by Maine Public, Wisconsin Public, WAMU, WEDU, WHYY, and KQED is currently in conversion and implementation. And for these organizations and all of you here today, monthly giving has really been a focus. So we're going to focus today on two things that we do to help our clients maximize their sustainer revenue. First, Cindy Hickman will talk about credit card processing and things that you can do on that front. And then John McCarthy will discuss a new machine learning driven model that focuses on sustainer loyalty. So without further ado, Cindy, take it away.
Thanks, Jason. I am Cindy Hickman. I am part of the product management team here at ROI Solutions. One of the areas of my portfolio are really all things related to transaction and payment processing. So I'm very excited to be here to talk about this today. I've been at ROI for almost 4 years now. Prior to being at ROI Solutions, I spent 23 years in the nonprofit industry, working for a handful of different nonprofits, really managing and leading on the finance side and the IT side of the house. all things around business operations, business processes, payment processing. Let's start with PCI DSS Compliance. For those of you who are not as familiar with those initials, that stands for Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. And it really does mean safe and secure credit card processing. It is the single most important thing that you could do to protect your donor's cardholder information. If your organization or vendors you work with that work with your donor's information are not PCI compliant, you're opening yourself up to a world of hurt. Not only could you end up needing to pay fines if a data breach occurred, you could lose your merchant account, which means you could no longer process credit cards, and none of us want that. We look at the numbers. In 2020, Revolution Online processed over 9 million credit card transactions, representing over $200 million in credit card revenue. We're going to now look forward to what technologies we could use to help us to streamline these processes, all while staying compliant. Sustainer credit card ecosystems. There are many channels in which you could receive a donor credit card info. It could be through the mail, with the donor responding to a mail piece, maybe a telemarketing vendor, or it could even be a point of sale purchase, or possibly a canvasser that has stopped by and has acquired credit card information on your behalf. Either way, once you've gathered that information, the card is processed and now it's in your account. As organizations, we spend many hours and days in meetings, on phone calls and webinars, thinking about new strategies to attract new sustainers, to increase the amount of their monthly giving, or even to convert a one-time donor to a sustainer. But we spend very little time actually thinking about what's happening behind the scenes. Both of those pieces are very important. Not many organizations think about credit card processing as a cost or a potential revenue stream even. So let's take a look at what's going on behind the scenes and what some of our clients are doing to maximize their sustainer revenue. Credit card declines. So everything's going great. You've got credit card processing in place, and then you start seeing declined credit cards come in. Depending upon the organization, the donor base, the credit card processing, and management of your cards, you could see anywhere from 7 to 12% decline on initial credit card attempts. But payment processors provide reason codes. A reason code is why the card declined. If you're smart and your merchant service provider is sharing that information with you, you could be looking at that and learning from it. Actually, very few organizations do that though. But that information could help you to inform what you want to do next. Reason codes fall into a couple of buckets. Could be a hard decline or a soft decline. A soft decline is something like insufficient funds, or the processing network is unavailable, or maybe there's been a temporary hold put on the card. A hard decline is maybe if the card had been lost or stolen, or the attempt at the charge exceeds the approval amount limited by the card holder. Either way, we can use this information to determine next steps. Let's look at two things that our clients are doing to help better manage their sustainers and their sustainers' tokenized cardholder information in Revolution Online. Let's talk about Account Updater. Most payment processors offer an Account Updater. Account Updater at a high level just looks to credit card companies to find updated account information. There are a couple of different flavors of how this can be done. Manual and file-based, which is really a payment processor doing an upload and download procedure to update the credit cards on your file. It updates periodically, usually on a specific date. Automated. If we do an automated process, we use the magic of integration with credit card information updates to those credit cards that are synced to your payment processor. If your CRM is integrated with a payment processor, then really you will have the most up-to-date credit card information. So when you're scheduled to pull cards and run them, they will automatically have already been updated to the most recent cardholder information. This provides a significant lift to minimize declines of your credit cards and any other manual efforts to find and update credit card data on your donor. Account Updater is now running, but you're still getting some declines. what could you do? Most people would say, just try the cards again. The number of reattempts you can do on a credit card depends on the type of card. For example, with MasterCard and Visa, you are allowed to reattempt up to 8 times. But stop and think what your organization does when a credit card declines on a sustaining giver. Most organizations may reattempt that card maybe a day or two later, and maybe do a final attempt a week out. Depending on the organization, you may also have some sort of manual intervention that you're doing. Maybe you're emailing the donor or having a telemarketing firm call to follow up. If you're a more sophisticated organization, you might even have some automated email drip campaigns or other type of multi-channel marketing campaigns where you're reaching out to your donors to follow up on that declined credit card. And still others might have an automated process behind the scenes that are mitigating these issues before they arise, and then mitigating them again as they happen. Some organizations, including ROI Solutions clients, are using data intelligence as managed by their payment processor to find the optimal reattempt schedule. So what does that look like? What do we mean by intelligent recycling? Some payment processors manage hundreds of billions in credit card transactions per year. They have been able to leverage machine learning, along with their history of successful and declined credit cards, and using decline reasons that I mentioned earlier. Along with the actual card type, so Visa, MasterCard, Amex, as well as prestige card types, gold, platinum, black, to find and continue to refine the optimal reattempt timeline. So in short, using a machine learning driven recycling engine will give you the ability to find the best cadence for reattempts. So what is the net result? Well, it's an incremental lift to their overall sustainer revenue. I'll share a conservative estimate here of about 2 to 3% of your annual sustainer revenue. You can do the math for your organization. For some of our largest clients that have made the switch to Revolution Online and made the switch to a new payment processor, leveraging our turnkey integration, we have seen as high as 5%. One of our larger organizations who measured the difference, they recaptured over $80,000 of otherwise lost revenue in the first month by consolidating processors, using account updater and intelligent recycling. For one of our public media clients who also closely monitored their results, they saw a $12,000 a month recapture rate. So here's the good news. Clients that are using this type of payment processor really don't have to do anything. It's a combination of a tight integration between your CRM and payment processor and scheduling automation of these background processes to allow them to do this without you having to lift a finger. Consolidate and streamline. Let's discuss the benefits of consolidation of payment processors and systems. We showed you a simplified payment processing ecosystem, but reality for many organizations is that they are managing a hugely and probably overly complex ecosystem. If that sounds familiar, promise yourself right now that you will audit those systems. You are losing money and you are wasting money and internal resources by not doing so. Often we see multiple point solutions managing monthly sustainers with multiple processors, and the data rarely syncs well. You lose negotiating leverage for costs that you are paying, and there are inefficiencies for processing, but also for the end of month financial reconciliation, it becomes a nightmare. Make sure that you are managing your credit card data, not the processor. Consolidate your ecosystems. You'll gain efficiencies by only managing one processor if possible, and it will help with the rates you are paying. Work smarter by using newer technology methods like account updater and intelligent recycling that we've discussed. All of this will help to streamline your reconciliation process in the end, and your finance team will love you. The overall message here is, let's get rid of the hands-on approach and partner with someone who can help to look at your processes and help you to automate and streamline. At this point, I want to say thank you, and I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, John McCarthy, for him to tell you about a new platform we've been using, which we think will really be a game changer.
Hey, thanks a lot, Cindy. My name is John McCarthy. I'm the VP of Database Operations and Strategic Initiatives here at ROI Solutions. I've been with the company for a little over 16 years in a variety of roles. The one thing they've all had in common is I've always been working directly with client data, which is kind of one of the big things I bring to the machine learning project. I've been working with the Milo project since day one, and it's been really exciting to see how much has changed over the last couple of years. So who is Milo? Milo is really two things. It's both a machine learning based technology platform that allows us to analyze our clients' data, and it's also an experienced staff with years of nonprofit fundraising, database, and analytical experience who work together to sort of implement this, not just provide scores that our clients then have to decide what to do with. Milo allows us to ask a data question and then run hundreds of data points through hundreds of machine learning models to find answers and find constituents who are most likely to respond to some kind of ask or intervention positively. Over time, we can actually feed those results back into the model and continually improve the models. Having all the data in our Revolution Online CRM system allows us to have very fast turnaround time on deploying models once they've been created. And we can do things like run monthly scores if you need them. And finally, we all know there's a lot of hype around machine learning and artificial intelligence. So ROI Solutions wanted to try to find a way to allow our clients to take advantage of it and sort of dip their toes into it with a little bit of hand holding. So we developed this project to try to do just that. When we started using Milo about a year and a half ago, we started with a fairly simple question: how best to recapture lapsed donors? Many organizations have already been using statistical models, either built in-house or via co-op. So we thought it'd be good proving ground for Milo. We went through a number of tests with live mailings and actually found that Milo was able to equal or exceed the performance of models that our clients were already using. The numbers on the right side of the screen illustrate some results for one of our clients. They've been using the model for about a year and a half, and the results show their year-over-year change in their lapsed and deep lapse results. Because we were able to better identify responders, they were able to increase the volume mailed from around 400,000 to almost 650,000. And that, coupled with the improved responses, was able to actually almost double their revenue with a 95% increase. So why is that? Milo has a few advantages. First of all, because we manage so much data for our clients, we're able to look at constituents across their full life cycle right from when they're acquired, and look at all of the solicitation history, giving history, and any other kind of action they've taken. Secondly, the computing power behind Milo, as I kind of referenced earlier, allows us to run hundreds of data points through hundreds of models which compete to develop the best predictions. And then we can use the ongoing results of those models and feed those back in to further improve the model. Finally, as I also referenced earlier, I really think the team adds a lot for a few reasons. One, because we have so much experience on the modeling team, but also we're working directly with our clients on all of their marketing campaigns, all of their different fundraising methodologies. So we're able to really tie the scores into a more holistic approach to their fundraising. Once we saw that we were having success with the lapse model, we decided to reach out to some clients and see what else they might want to other kind of issues they may want to try to solve. And one of the big things that came back was sustainers. So as Cindy mentioned earlier, a lot of our clients are really investing heavily in sustainers, and it's driving a lot of their fundraising. So working with a couple of clients, we decided to develop a model to try to predict sustainer churn. So we could try to figure out which sustainers are the most likely to drop off your file. Even some very small improvements in the churn rate can really drive a lot of revenue, because these people are giving monthly and theoretically for the long term. So the reason why we decided to do 4 months is we wanted to predict who might churn 4 months in the future, because that gives you a chance to do some sort of intervention and try to change that outcome. So if you take a look at the chart, what this is showing, the orange line is showing the churn rate over 4 months. So that's basically what we're predicting. This is the actual results. So the people with a 1, that's the most likely to churn. People with 20 are the least likely to churn. And if you look at the orange line, you can see people most likely predicted to be most likely to churn are churning at 19%, whereas the people who are least likely are actually churning at about 4%. And we took a look at the 1 month churn rate, which is not strictly speaking what we're predicting, but it does show you that there is some predictive value there too, that the ones are churning at a higher rate after just 1 month also. So what are these features that we're using? If you take a look, these are some examples. This is not exhaustive, but it gives you some idea of the types of things we're using. We're using kind of standard giving models, recency, frequency, and amount. But we're also able, because we have all the data, we're able to subdivide those in different ways. So we can look at male giving only, we can look at sustainer giving only, we can sort of customize the features. Then we get into look at some demographics, age and gender being the primary ones. Age we've seen success with. Then we get into where the clients came onto the file, what kind of actions they've taken in the past. We look at their profile things like, do they use multiple payment methods? They pay by check and credit card. And finally, we kind of get into what we consider kind of the secret sauce, or the very custom part of each model, which is what's the definition of engagement for each organization. So we want to try to get at that idea of trying to see if we can measure, as part of the modeling, how engaged a person is. And we've found that that's been very predictive. So after we developed the models and we were able to make some predictions, we realized that it was another piece of this, which is, what is the intervention? What do you do to try to save these people? It's really a process of experimentation and testing using different types of campaigns. We've had people using text campaigns, mail, email, phone calls, whatever traditional channels people are using. They're trying to see if what will impact this also. On the right here is one example of an intervention that one of our clients did. So this was an email upgrade campaign to try to increase people's sustainer giving. And they did a holdout. So they only contacted some of the people, especially in the most likely to churn groups. And they showed a clear difference. You can look at the slide. It was 19% of the people they didn't contact churned, whereas it was 14% of the people that did. So currently we're working with our clients to try to help them evaluate the impact of those interventions. And we've asked Holly Kunstman from Peta to say a few words about their experience.
Thanks, John. Hi, I'm Holly Kunstman, Director of Fundraising Operations with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals Foundation. I manage several areas of fundraising, including PETA's monthly giving program. PETA, for those of you who don't know, is the largest animal rights organization in the world with more than 6.5 million members and supporters. PETA opposes speciesism, a human supremacist worldview, and we focus our attention on the 4 areas in which the largest number of animals suffer the most intensely for the longest periods of time: in laboratories, in the food industry, the clothing trade, and in the entertainment industry. We also work on a variety of other issues, including the cruel killing of rodents, birds, and other animals who are often considered pests, as well as cruelty to domesticated animals. Peta works through public education, cruelty investigations, research, animal rescue, legislation, special events, celebrity involvement, and protest campaigns. At Peta, we've invested a lot in building our sustainer file over the years, and currently we have about 50,000 active sustainers, and the program represents about 9 million per year. So any sustainer that leaves the program is costly. And if we can save even 10% of those sustainers that might leave the organization, it means hundreds of thousands of dollars in saved revenue annually. As John mentioned, we have been working with the Milo machine learning modeling to isolate audiences of those sustainers that are most likely to churn. Last year, we tested a couple of different intervention campaigns focusing on personal contact through phone calls, handwritten cards, and texting, as well as additional efforts through our direct mail and email programs. This year, we're going to be testing additional channels, and we're excited to even start looking at the top end of our most loyal sustainers in the model and test about upgrade opportunities and other marketing vehicles with that audience. We are very excited to see the results.
Thanks a lot, Holly. I just wanted to sort of to wrap up, I wanted to say, one thing that's been really interesting about working with this machine learning project is because it's kind of new and people are still trying to figure out what questions to ask, that it's always been kind of interesting, and we're always curious to see what our clients will come up with next. Thanks a lot for your time. I'm going to pass you over to Jason.
So what do we want you to take away today? First, keep doing what you've been doing and building out those sustainer files, as it represents the best ROI for your organization. And public media continues to innovate to bring in new sustainers to your program. Make sure you take the time to review your back-end processes and streamline your ecosystem as much as possible, as it will help you realize incremental revenue and cost savings. And a little % change in big programs can have a real impact to your bottom line. If your CRM or database can, automate as much as possible. Free up your staff time to think strategically about those processes and about the marketing vehicles you're using to build those sustainer programs. And finally, your organization likely has really good analysts, but test and embrace new technologies as they become available to you. Let the machine do the work for you, and you will become a more efficient organization. So please feel free to reach out to any of us for follow-up, and we look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for attending the session. Pardon me, we're going to go into a Q&A. So we are going to have our friends from ROI come on up. That's Cindy, Jason, and John. When you get the chance, if you can turn on your webcams, and we are going to, hi, Jason, we're going to do some questions. And looks like we've got everybody, so we're good to go. Thank you all for a really great session. Let me jump in because we do have a lot of questions. We have a limited amount of time. So the first question that the audience has asked is, can people access Milo and the sustainer lapsed model without being on ROI?
Currently, no, not yet. But we may have some news coming up in a few months where that might be a possibility. So currently, we curate the data, we manage the data in Revolution Online. It feeds into our Milo platform. Those scores can live within Revolution Online and be used for all sorts of different marketing initiatives. So not quite yet, but stay tuned.
Okay, breaking news coming towards you soon. We'll keep you posted. The next question is, someone thought that the loyalty model was really cool, but are you looking into other models? And the example that they were interested in was a model for people that are likely to become sustainers or those that would likely convert, so a sustainer conversion model.
Yeah, we're sort of, at the moment, we're kind of building models based on what our clients need or what our clients have been asking us for. So we haven't looked into that yet, but that's certainly one area we could develop a model for.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, as Holly mentioned from Peta, looking also within that sustainer loyalty model at the higher end and figuring out what to do with them, either to upgrade those sustainers or invite them to participate in other programs such as planned giving or other major giving, mid-major programs.
Okay, great. So let me go on to the next question. Someone has asked, I know it would be discovered by the model and probably be a combination of variables, but for public media organizations, what are some data points that might indicate whether a sustainer would perhaps fall off the file? So this person is specifically looking for those data points.
I mean, you know, I would say we've done it for a few clients, and we're not always seeing the same things across each one, but some things that are sort of obvious are the length of time the person's been on the program and been donating. So in our modeling, we've excluded anybody who's given less than 3 gifts, just to kind of take those people who sign up, then they see it on the credit card and they say, oh wait, I just meant to do a one-time gift, to kind of get past that. I'm trying to think of which there's sort of a one answer that we could use.
Well, I'll give you one, if I could jump in, John. So for those public TV stations, particularly with PBS Passport, right? And so in Revolution Online, we know each time someone logs in, right, to PBS Passport and starts streaming content, someone doesn't do that, that's a pretty good indicator that they might, you know, end up falling off if they're not seeing value from their monthly gift, right? And that's sort of the Netflix model. They'll send you an email that says, hey, we haven't seen from you in a while. Here's some content based on what you've watched before, right? So that's really the next step there. I don't know if anyone's doing that on the call today, but I'm pretty sure that would be predictive of someone maybe falling off the sustainer file.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. We do have a few more questions, but I kind of want to go to the audience and say, audience, we're going to do a poll question. We want to ask you your opinions, kind of engage with you. I know we've been giving you lots of information. All right, so poll question, first one for you. How many payment processors are you using today across your ecosystem? So we'll give you a minute to answer. Collecting responses right now. I'd sing you
as we collect those responses, Christina. We actually went through a conversion not too long ago where a new client had been using about 6 different payment processors. Big file, big sustainer file, lots of credit cards being processed, lots of credit card revenue. But you know, with all those different processors, really the volume and their ability to negotiate rates was significantly hampered by just the number of players that were involved, not to mention the difficulty moving data. So
yes, that's interesting. So it looks like 50% of the people polled are using 2 to 3 different payment processors. There is 7% said they're using 4 or more payment processors. And so Jason, your specific point was that if you were using one, it would be more cost effective. Did I hear you right?
It would be both most cost effective, right? Because then you're leveraging that volume and revenue to negotiate rates, right? So each of the, no matter what payment processor you're using, likely your rates are based on the overall number of transactions and the total revenue of those transactions. So yeah, it gives you leverage to negotiate better rates, but it also allows you to control that data better. Right. So if it's all managed through, let's say, your CRM, then you know where all those tokens are. It's a simple, you know, one direction transaction from you to payment processor and back to you, as opposed to potentially getting to the point where at the end of the month, you know, you're trying to close out a month and you're having difficulty figuring out where, you know, from each of the different payment processors that you're using. And yeah. Sorry, Cindy, I should have let you respond.
No problem.
Okay, well, good. Okay, let's go to a question that's come in, and then I am going to go back to another poll question because it's great to hear from the audience. So, staying on the same topic of payment processing, for payment processing, how do you calculate the all-in rate? What should I be paying and what should I be looking out for? And you've been touching on this, so could you expand?
Yeah, sure. So every payment processor, the rates are going to be variable based on the payment processor. We mentioned volume, right? So based on that volume, how much you can negotiate around those rates. I will say they're negotiable generally with every payment processor. Typically, when you're looking at your all-in costs, you're looking at, for each transaction, there'll be a percentage assigned to that transaction. So let's say it's 2%, 2.5%. It varies from processor to processor, and again, depending on the organization and the size. And then in addition to that percentage, there'll be a fee, 20 cents or something per transaction. There's also a lot of hidden costs, right? So like chargebacks or reattempts, or really how the payment processor will charge you based on a reattempt. Either if it's the reattempt itself or it's a successful transaction on a reattempt. So there's a whole bunch of different, variables that go into what your all-in rate is. But we've seen it, on the good side, like 2.5% to 3%. On the higher end, 5-6%. And again, once you're using multiple payment processors, it becomes hard to look at, all those numbers real easily. And the second part of that is really, again, losing that control of that volume across those processors.
Cindy, anything to add to that?
Just the having less payment processors also giving you that streamlined end of the month close piece. So, I don't know that we've got the finance folks, so to speak, at the PBs on the call today, but on their side, the more processors you're using, the more of a nightmare it is at the end of the month that you're trying to reconcile between all of those different pieces.
Excellent.
So that's a big part.
Excellent point. We know that staff time equals budget dollars, so that's
absolutely
important. Yeah, okay, excellent point. I'd love to go to a poll again to engage the audience. So do you know what your all-in costs are for processing credit card? I'm sorry, do you know what your own all-in costs are for processing credit card transactions are? Sorry, blah, 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 blah. That was awful. Sorry, thank you. So pull up on the screen. We'd love to know if you know what your all-in costs are. And we'll give you
don't worry if you don't, because not many people offhand know that number.
Okay.
So it might take a little digging to find what that number is. But if you're on the higher end of this of 4%, right? It might be time to take a look at both your contracts, which may have been signed a long time ago with the payment processor, and your volumes have increased as your programs have grown. So that's a good time to renegotiate. And hopefully it's not quite that high, but again, we've seen it over 5%.
Okay. All right, we'll wrap it up, and we will say that a third of people say that they are paying 3 to 4%. There is about 50% that says they're not sure, but they're going to find out. So that's a significant chunk.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I'm going to do one final poll, and I'm going to answer one more question from the audience. So this one is a little bit different. Are you using any statistical models today? What part of your marketing programs do you use to deploy them? Choose all that apply. Okay, we're getting some answers in. Give you a few more seconds.
And this will fuel John and the Milo team to know which part of your programs they should be focusing on next.
Okay, Very good. So your choices are member acquisition and post-merge acquisition, upgrade ask amounts, sustainer conversion or attrition, and major or planned giving likelihood. Let's go ahead and close that out. So we have the majority of people saying, and this is about 80% in both cases, they're using upgrade ask amounts or major or planned giving likelihood. Does that sound pretty traditional? Pretty normal, John?
It does. And I'd be interested more if folks can write into the chat and really around in-house modeling, or are they using, you know, the well-known co-ops to really help build those models?
We only had a third of people saying that they were doing sustainer conversion or attrition. So that's the lowest. Do you see that being pretty normal across the system?
Yeah, clients that we've been talking to have not been using any kind of modeling, specifically for the churn, which is one of the reasons we kind of got into that. We sort of saw like an opportunity to help our clients and sort of prove out this technology to see what we could get out of it. The other models do make sense to me from what we've heard. I mean, I think there's been a lot of work, you know, across companies looking at, you know, especially major giving and trying to help you analyze that. A lot of times that's bringing in external data, also like wealth data and things like that. So I think a lot of those companies who are working with that kind of data have a tendency to want to try to put together models like that too.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. And I think really we've kind of answered the last question, but let me go ahead and pose it to you anyway in case there's some additional expanding you'd like to do. So what type of statistical model is best for my organization? Someone asks, and they're asking about linear regression.
Yeah, I think on that front, I mean, one of the interesting things about the technology we're using is it actually runs multiple models and they kind of compete to see which type of model will work best to answer the question that you have in front of you. So we don't go in with any kind of bias as to which type of model you want to use. We really kind of let the technology find the answer because you know, we're not doing any calculations on our graph paper, so we don't care how complicated it is, you know. So we just sort of take advantage of what's out there.
Okay.
To kind of get to that.
Okay. Well, that concludes all of our poll questions, all of the questions from the audience. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up for the day, guys?
My last thought is just, I think I kind of touched on it in my part of the presentation, but it's interesting with the churn model because, you know, it's one thing to come up with a prediction and say these are the people that we think are gonna most likely to leave your file. You can wait 4 months and say, yep, those were the people that were most likely to leave your model. But the real challenge is, and I think it's true of a lot of modeling, is what do you do with that? It's like the implementation and how do you learn from what you try? So I think that's what kind of, you know, there's still a big open question of what's the right way to get those, the most likely to churn people to be less likely. So I just think that's, you know, sort of like applying the model is a huge piece of it.
We did have one more person with a comment, and I'd like to read it to you and see if you have any thoughts. It's not necessarily a question, but someone is saying we use Blackbaud target tags, Blackbaud loyalty insights, Blackbaud advanced direct marketing analytics, and CBA, that's Carl Bloom, custom lapse modeling, as well as modeled/compiled acquisition mailing lists. Last major giving likelihood was also from Blackbaud, their prospect point, but they're getting another one from INN. Does this sound like they're really running a healthy program, and any recommendations for them? Any thoughts?
Yeah, just my background, I worked at Target Analytics for 12 years. So I was on the modeling sales side. You know, it's fairly typical that across the constituent experience, it'll be, you know, multiple companies working on multiple models for multiple outcomes. So that is typical. And kudos to the organization who posted or put the comment in that they're trying a number of different things. I would say two things. One, always test, right? And that's, standard direct marketing best practice. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really finding the model that works best for your unique organization, and then really deploying it across the organization, right? So not limiting it to really one channel, but really finding models that can apply across multiple channels, and really communicate internally, break down those silos and say, hey, we got this new model. This might be great for the digital programmer, might be able to help here. So when you're doing your segmentation, you're really leveraging all the assets that you have to find the best audience for the best ask.
Okay, you know what, there's one more question that's come in, and it is, can you talk a little bit more about the post-merge acquisition model? What is it? How does it work?
So ROI does not have a post-merge acquisition model, but I can talk a little bit about what post-merge acquisition models can do. Following a merge purge, right, you'll have a result, a group of names from all those different lists that you've rented or exchanged. And you can really look to cut out the worst responding names, predicted to be worst responding. Or you can do some post-merge modeling to up the ask amounts for those people that might have more wealth. And then there's a number of other things where you can do sort of filler models and fill in to get to your desired quantity, acquisition quantity. So there's a few different uses of those post-merge models. And in fact, I think Target Analytics had some of those as well, or Blackbaud Analytics.
Okay, and let me double check. I think that is everything from the audience. It is. Okay, so thank you all so much for being here with us. We really appreciated everything. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or to Jason. We'd be happy to help you. I also want to say, for those of you wondering about the next session, there's another one at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So just in about 40 minutes, it's going to be a rapid fire, 30 ideas in 30 minutes. We're going to get you done, give you some great ideas. We're going to talk a little bit about what we've learned during this summit. It is our very last session, so we've had a wonderful time with all of you. Again, to our speakers, I appreciate your time so much. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you've talked about today. It was very educational. So with that, we'll close out. We'll see some of you in about 40 minutes. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Carl Bloom Associates. Bye now.